Hi, it's Michelle Assetto with Beach City Brokers, and today we are talking about inspections. Specifically, how as a seller you can keep the most money and how as a buyer you can get the most money, given there is some work to be done to the house. So you just got your offer accepted, you're super excited, or you just accepted an offer and you're super excited, and now it's time for the inspection period. We talked about inspection contingency in another video last week. If you're confused about what that is, check that out. But so now the buyer, once you've accepted offer, has the right to do any and all inspections to the property. Typically, the inspection timeline is 10 to 17 days, and a buyer is going to bring the inspectors that they want to come to the property. I typically recommend a standard home inspection, termite, sewer line, fireplace, if they have those things. And during that time, a buyer might find that one or a couple of the systems need some repairs. And that's not to say that the seller does or doesn't know about those things. So if a buyer finds those things, their general inspector says, there's a plumbing issue over here, my recommendation to the buyer, in order to negotiate, that's what we're talking about here, with the seller to have that repair fixed, is to have a professional, so in this case, it would be a plumber, come out, give them an estimate, an actual estimate, not, oh, I think that's going to cost $5,000. No. Because the seller might say, oh, I think it's going to cost $500, and you're not going to get very far. Also, the seller can have their own people come out and say, cost $3,000. This person might say cost $5,000. We're in a negotiation here. So I recommend to the buyer to have a professional come out and give an estimate to the seller and ask them for a credit, or you can ask them to do the work. Best practices for repairs we're going to talk about in another video, not this one. So as you can see, there's a negotiation happening. An important thing to know is that when a buyer finds any new facts about the property in their inspection period, that is a new known fact about the property. And why is this important? This is important because if this buyer and this seller cannot come to an agreement on how to move forward given this new information, this seller, there's a report, has to now disclose that information to the next buyer. Meaning that this next buyer might say, oh, I was going to offer you X amount, but now I'm going to offer you X minus Y amount because now I'm going to have to do all this stuff. So if the seller wants to keep the deal together with the current buyer, the buyer has some leverage there because they have now produced some new information. So for a buyer, we already talked about how for them to get the most money. We're not trying to, gyp the seller. We just want these unforeseen costs covered. So get an estimate. Now for seller, how can you protect yourself from, giving away unforeseen amounts of money? Or even foreseen amounts of money, meaning that you might know something about the property, but it might be something that the buyer might discover later. How can we avoid that? So if you know something about the property, the furnace needs to be replaced, there's a leak in the roof, et cetera, et cetera. My recommendation for you to keep the most money is to disclose that to the buyer before they open escrow. Some ways you can do that is if you know it, you tell them. Or you can have an inspector, you can pay for an inspector to inspect your property, find out what's wrong, fix what you want, don't fix what you don't, and then give it to the buyer and say, hey, this is what's happening. Do you want it? Do you not? Give me a price that you're going to buy it knowing this information. So once they open escrow and they find out that the furnace doesn't work, you're like, yeah, dude, I told you the furnace doesn't work. I'm not going to give you a credit. And then you move on from there. Or you could say, yeah, dude, I told you that the furnace was not working. And I also told the other guy who's my backup offer, and I could take his offer. He knows also. So that is best practices for keeping the most money and getting the most money. And as your agent, that is my job. So that's why I share these things with you. So if you are looking to keep the most money as a seller or get the most money as a buyer, give me a call. Let's work together. Thank you so much for watching. And again, my name is Michelle Aceta, and I'm with Beach City Brokers. Have a great day. Bye.